Despite a barrage of sanctions from the Biden administration in response to Russia-Ukraine conflict, the anticipated economic devastation in Moscow has not materialized, according to a new report. Researchers Oleg Itskoki from Harvard University and Alina Rybakova from the Peterson Institute for International Economics reveal insights into why these sanctions have fallen short. The authors argue that the West missed a critical opportunity by failing to impose stringent sanctions immediately after the beginning of the conflict in February 2022. The report highlights that Russia effectively prepared for these sanctions, learning from the penalties imposed following its annexation of Crimea in 2014. The effectiveness of the sanctions was further undermined by the absence of major economic players like China and India, who did not participate in the sanctions regime. While the number of sanctions imposed on Russia is impressive, the tangible economic effects remain unclear. The researchers stress that global cooperation is essential for sanctions to achieve their intended impact. Since the onset of the conflict in February 2022, the US has sanctioned over 4,000 individuals and entities, targeting approximately 80% of Russia's banking sector by assets. While the Biden administration acknowledges that sanctions alone cannot halt Russia's aggression, it has provided around $56 billion in military assistance to Ukraine since the start of the conflict. Some experts argue that the sanctions may not be stringent enough, especially given recent growth in the Russian economy. US officials have reported that Russia has increasingly turned to China for essential technologies, including those needed for missile production and other military hardware. A Treasury spokesperson highlighted Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's comments from the G20 finance ministers meeting in July, describing the actions taken against Russia as unprecedented. The US continues to crack down on sanctions evasion and enhance its capacity to target foreign entities aiding Russia's military operations. Despite these efforts, Russia has successfully evaded a $60 price cap on its oil exports imposed by the US and G7 nations, which aims to curb Moscow's oil revenues without disrupting global oil supplies. Russia has countered this cap by creating its own fleet of aging tankers, allowing it to transport 90% of its oil independently of Western services. The US designed the price cap to cut into Russia's oil profits while avoiding significant market disruptions that could raise oil and gasoline prices. Similar concerns delayed the European Union's decision to impose a ban on Russian oil for nearly a year following the onset of the conflict. The long-term success of these sanctions remains uncertain as Russia continues to adapt and maintain its economic lifelines. As the conflict endures, the global community faces growing pressure to recalibrate its strategy, balancing economic measures with broader diplomatic efforts to bring about a resolution. This situation highlights the challenge of hurting Russia's economy without causing too much harm to the global market.